Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 668. Now, in today's episode, we're talking about doing what you love, about being more purposeful, and also a celebration. Can I celebrate with you for a second? Would that be okay? Because I checked my stats just yesterday. And, are you ready for it? We just got 12 million podcast downloads. 12 million podcast downloads, which is ridiculous. So if I look at my stats on one website, it shows that we've got 9.5 million. And I did at least 2 million before I would transfer to this new platform. Well, I've been with this platform for far longer. But that definitely means, and I always try to underestimate it, we've done 12 million episodes. Sorry, 12 million episodes. That'd be crazy. We've done 668 episodes, but 12 million downloads via the podcast. And that inspired me today. And by the way, this is being broadcasted live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those places. So feel free to join us. It inspired me to consider the psychology of doing what you love. Now, the first disclaimer I'm going to say about this episode is this. You don't have to live a life in terms of your career as so crazy cool purpose. Okay, I'm not saying that is a necessity. Is it an ideal? Is it something that we'd probably like to have? Probably. But it's less about that. It's about being who you are and loving who you are as a way of being in this world. But this podcast episode will be going on more about doing what you love for a living. That's just what the episode's about. So be open, be curious to consider what may happen. Because you never know, you might decide something on this episode. You see, when I was young, I had an idea that I was going to get a job, and I didn't know what it was going to be, but it was going to be just like a normal, I don't think my job's that normal, in other words, but I was going to get a normal job, and I was going to have the wife, the children, the car, the 2 cars, the house, the 2 vacations, holidays per year. But somewhere along the line, something happened, and I'm very, very thankful for it. Because that thing that happened was my issue. Because on the one hand, I wanted that dream of a life for me, thinking about it now, of the wife, the children, the house, the vacation, the 9 to 5. That's what I wanted. But there was this other part of me which was full of dread, which was full of fear. And it hurt every single day. Like, I would wake up sometimes. First of all, I wouldn't even sometimes go to sleep because of those wondering thoughts of what's going to happen the next day. Sometimes I'd wake up and go, I don't know how I'm going to get through the day. And this is when I was in my full-time job as well. This was before I got into hypnosis. I only had one full-time job for about a year or less. But I would really dread those Sundays. On Wednesdays, I'd feel like we're almost there, and I'd live for the weekend. Fridays were the best days because I knew that I was traveling home to just escape that workplace. And then something began to happen, that my issue of not feeling good enough and not feeling worthy and not feeling deserving and not feeling capable began to kick in. They got so extreme that I had to have an epiphany. I had to wake up. I had to wake up to the truth. And I think we all have one. Sometimes it takes time to be able to discover it. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what your path is. But I think it can happen to all of us at times. Maybe it's your time right now. But I want you to think about it like this. Our pain, on the one hand, it hurts. That fear, that doubt, the fear of being found out. The fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of not getting help, the fear of not amounting to something. But sometimes that pain can become so strong and so powerful, it causes us to wake up. It causes us to go, I'm ready to change my life. That we cannot handle that pain, that we're willing to do whatever it takes to get ourselves out of it, to make a shift, to realize that this pain can be temporary, to realize that our dreams and goals that we have can be so much more of a reality than we can imagine. It really, really can. Now, there's what people don't tell you. They say, look, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Semi-true. You're going to be working harder than you've ever worked. It doesn't have to be crazy bad hard, but it's going to be a challenge. But if you're thinking about doing what you love, and I go back to my example, in the beginning of this podcast, I was a full-time therapist or hypnotherapist or coach or whatever you want to call me, hypnotist. And I was seeing my clients, but I wanted to get my word out. I wanted to be able to speak my thoughts. And I thought there'll be a few people who may be curious and interested to consider those thoughts. So I started this podcast, which is now live stream as well. And it started to get traction. Now we got to think about the psychology of doing what you love, because doing what you love doesn't have to be monetary. I didn't start this podcast in any way about being monetary. In fact, I don't get paid to do this podcast. I might get sponsorships in the future, which would be very grateful if you're out there listening, if you want to sponsor the episode. But right now, my own company sponsors it based on the program that I run. But it didn't start out that way. It was just on my heart. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be able to try to help as many people as I possibly could for free. For free. And that is still my mission today. I'm committed and driven to produce 3 live episodes consistently to try to help people. And I do it because I want to help people. I want to be able to help people get out of their pain just like I experienced it. I want them to be able to live the life of emotional freedom, to break free of the prison of the past and awaken to what is possible, to awaken to something new. But I had to go through that myself. I had to go through those dark times, and even when I was starting out, it was crazy hard. Like I dropped out of college when it came to business. So I had to learn business. I had to consider how I could get better. Because you can be doing what you love, but if you don't learn the aspects of business, then it's going to be really tricky to be able to do what you love. But if you think about what you enjoy the most, sometimes we think, well, who am I to make money from this? Happens a lot with therapists, people that we train up, because it's a heart-based thing. But for most people, they ask themselves, well, how can I make money out of doing what I love? Well, to me, it comes down to different things. There is the level of investment into your education, of your psychology, to break free of that limiting belief, to consider a new reality. But it comes down to you and the discipline that you have. You see, about a year ago, I thought of a sentence, and it's been around for longer, I don't know, but it just came to me. And it was to be so consistent. Because I was reflecting back, before I get to that sentence, I was reflecting back as to the growth of this podcast, which is now 12 million plus downloads in over, I can't remember how many hundreds of countries, or 200 or something like that. I looked back at what I was doing, and it was to be so consistent that it was impossible to be ignored. So consistent in what I did that people would not ignore what I was trying to get out of that. But the world, the universe would not ignore that voice, that passion, that purpose. So we can have that goal and dream on the one hand, but you've got to take responsibility to be so consistent that you are impossible to be ignored. The results are impossible to be ignored. You see, that discipline creates the freedom. It has allowed me to live a happy life. It's allowed me, if I were to pass away, I'd be thinking that I've lived a good life and I've hopefully left. And there's a sentence I heard, by the way, to leave the world in a better place that you found it. How cool is that as a methodology? To leave the world in a place, and you can say this with people as well. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to try to get my thoughts out there, do as much for free as possible. So we're in like 668 episodes, roughly 20-30 minutes each, then double that for production time and all those things and editing, let alone the cost of getting it out there. I was so dedicated, so committed, so consistent that I refused to buy into what other people thought. I refused to buy into all the doubters. I even refused to buy into the haters, because you get those along the way. I don't get many, but there are some people who will think my voice sounds weird, that I look weird, and they're happy to voice their opinions, especially in this online nature. But to me, if I'm doing what I feel is good, if I do what I'm wanting to do because I'm hopefully making an impact, that my intention is, then I'm going to keep on pushing forward. I'm going to keep on moving forward. I want to be able to reach as many people as possible. I'm going to see what else I can think about, because the other thing that I do when I'm not on the live streams, when I'm not doing the podcast, I'm thinking and self-reflecting on my own life, my own issues, my own problems that I'm going through, so I can hopefully then communicate some advice or insight epiphanies for you as well. You see, this is a very therapeutic process for me, because as I work through my own stuff, because I'm a human, it allows me to have ideas of what I can implement within my own life, how I can start to work on my own issues, because I still have them. I do. But it's about trying to wake up to the fact that I have an issue, to then take action upon that issue in a quick time, to use the tools and skills that I've learned over the years to be able to interrupt it, elevate it, or evolve it to where I want to be in the world. So as I go through my own challenges and my own limitations, which are only there to set me free, they're there to challenge me, I want to impart those challenges and those thoughts and those insights. So each one of these episodes is really about me as much as it's about you. I'm trying to transform my inner world to hopefully then transform other people's world. Which is kind of cool and selfish that it's about me, right? But I say that playfully, but it is really so beneficial. It's very therapeutic to me to be able to get my thoughts out there. And why this episode is a little bit about me in the podcast is because I want to impart on you, not to impress upon you, but impart upon you, or to hopefully get you to realize that, look, if you really want something bad enough, if you want to make an impact in the world, if you want to shine your light, if you want to do what is right on your heart, you've got to assume that responsibility and go through the hard times, because hard times will come. Hard times will be experienced. Those boundaries are there to set you free, because once you break through them, you're going to get another boundary. But it's about the ability to learn and understand and instigate that despite I'm going through this conflict, despite I'm going through this resistance in my life, it's going to wake me up to something new. I'm going to elevate my consciousness to another level. So when you have something on your heart and you want to be able to achieve that dream and goal, even get monetized for it, in other words, live a life of abundance, realize it's okay to have a challenge. It's okay to have those haters. Remember, if people are kind of calling you out and they're doubting you, they're only doing it because they're kind of below you in a way, because they don't believe it within themselves. They don't feel like they can get there. Because those who are successful, those who are up there, are usually trying to pull you up. They really are. They want you to change because they're less interested about their own life, or they're more interested in their own progression than trying to put other people down. So realize, look, there's going to be haters, there's going to be opinions, but it's none of your business. Why should we care so much about other people's opinions when it's about us and our happiness? I like to think that you really want to do something with your life, that you want to be able to do what you love, that you want to live a life of purpose. You want to leave the world in a better place. Sometimes I think of my profession, if we just go there, but we can relate it to anything when it comes to our own personal development. And it's this. I imagine myself as being a candle. And with that candle, I was unlit, right? I was just a candle in the darkness. And it was hard being in that darkness because you don't know where to turn. You're lost, you're confused. You're not with anyone. You don't feel like you belong. You're not being seen, you're not being heard, you're not being felt because you cannot be seen when you're in that dark place. But somewhere along the line, maybe someone helps you. And for me, it was my father, my mother, and then the people I learned from, where it be from books, where it be through the investment of trainings and masterminds and mental stuff, like just putting all that financial income into my development. But somewhere along the line, and especially in the beginning with my family, something happened and my flame lit up. Now, as soon as that flame lights up, that candle of you lights up and you go, oh my goodness, I want to change. Oh my goodness, I want to be able to make a difference. You begin to shine that candle, your candle. And when you begin to shine your candle, you begin to see something else happening. You see that dark room was actually a room, but it has many other candles which were unlit. You couldn't see them. You couldn't see them because you weren't lit up. You weren't shining your light. But now you're starting to shine your light, you're starting to see these other candles in this room. So what do? Well, you go to another candle and you light that flame. Does it take anything from your flame? Absolutely not. You are just igniting something by passing on that light. And then you can go to other candles because now the room is that bit brighter and lighter. And then as you light another one and another one and another one, you begin to see the kaleidoscope of beauty in this room. You begin to see the expansion of it. It wasn't that small, it wasn't that dark, it's actually very big and huge. And each time you shine at or light up someone's candle, you light up their life. It becomes a chain reaction because those people that you lit up start to do the exact same thing. Because what I'm trying to say here, if you haven't realized already, that once you start to shine your light, you start to give permission to shine, or other people to shine their lights, like the Marianne Williamson quote, which Nelson Mandela spoke about. We've got to shine our light brighter than ever in today's world. We want to be able to expand our thoughts and our ideas. And going back to that quote, no one gets any value by you playing small. No one gets any value from that. It is your birthright, in my opinion, to know who you are in this world, to love who you are, to realize you're worth it, because the impact you make on so many people in the world, when you change and you light up that candle, you are giving people not necessarily the conscious, because they might not get it in the beginning, but you're giving them the unconscious permission that they're able to do the exact same thing. So when I think of that analogy that I came up with, that suits me. It makes me feel like that's what I am doing. Where I'm doing it or not, I don't know, right? Like, I get good feedback, but there are probably lots of people turn on the episode and go, bugger that guy, I don't like that. And I'm okay with that as well. I don't have to be liked by everyone. But if I just shine up that one light, that one candle, and then they start to do the same, the ripple effects will go far and wide. So therefore, you have to shine your light. And you only realize that you can be lit up in that darkness because of the darkness. So realize if we are in a place of darkness, we're in a place of feeling lost and being not heard, then allow someone to help you instigate that light. Find someone who can support you, because that's what I needed. It was hard doing it by myself at times. Sometimes we have to. Even if it's just a podcast episode, even if it's one of my hypnosis tracks, whatever it is, dive all into that. Apply it. Because when you get that first bit of ignition, that first spark of light, you're going to start to see the world around you so much more differently than the previous way, because you are now seeing through a different lens. You see, that belief of feeling not good enough or worthy or deserving or capable can disappear, but you've got to take action on it. You see, then somewhere along the line, think about this as a ripple effect. But of course, people start to speak about it. They may leave a review. They may begin to say, look, listen to this podcast. I've had lots of psychotherapists reach out to me saying, I recommend you to my patients. And think about that. Now we're working together as a team. Now we're starting to support one another. We're starting to expand our consciousness, and therefore we're helping the world in the most beautiful way. Good to self, good to others, good for the world. So realize, the only way the podcast came into existence to be able to get from 1 or 2 downloads a day, if that, to now getting 5 to 10,000 per day, getting to that 12 million plus, was it all started with that first decision that I wanted to do something. So I ask you this. I ask you to consider, what would you do if you didn't have that limiting thought or belief about yourself? How would you like to wake up every day feeling excited for no reason, but still doing what you love? Having permission to do so. What would you do? It reminds me of the Alan Watts metaphor. And it was pretty much like, well, if you could imagine that as you go to sleep at night, you start to dream, and you can lucid dream, in other words. And as you lucid dream, you start to go through these scenarios of being this kind of person, a superhero, and all these things, because you can do anything in this dream, which is kind of cool, right? In the beginning. But then somewhere along the line, you do everything, and you start, because you have so much power and control, you start to go, actually, I want the more normal life, or I want to experience the issues. And then eventually, there's cutting it short, you then choose the life that you have right now, because that resistance in your life is meaningful. Because if you could just snap your fingers and everything would be perfect, it would probably be a little bit boring. So realize the friction and the resistance that we have in our life right now is probably something that we'd like to choose to a degree to cause us to move forward, to cause us to be able to live life in a different way. Sometimes you need the contrasting experiences to be able to set you free. Sometimes you need that darkness to see the light, and there's a lot of darkness right now in the world. But just because it's dark in the world, just because there's all this resistance and this contrasting experience of the feelings that we don't like, whether it be the anger, the sadness, the fear, the guilt, the hurt, the frustration, the grief, the sorrow, all of that stuff, it doesn't mean that we just stick with it. It doesn't mean that we just live with it. Allow it to be the instigator of your life. Allow it to be the instigator to your purpose and your passion, your mission, your ambition, your vision of the world that you would like to live in. Because that comes from you. And as I said, once you do, like that candle, you're going to be subconsciously and unconsciously lighting up the candles in your circle and your sphere of influence. It starts with you. It is maintained by you. Yes, you can get help. Yes, you need support. I highly recommend that. That is why I run programs to help people get there. But there's also other people out there running programs to help you get there. But seek out the right advice. Seek out the advice that's going to support you forward. Because you have the ability to achieve all the goals and dreams that you have. You have the ability to live a life of passion. I really want everyone on this podcast episode to one day experience maybe what I have felt, which is knowing that I am worthy, knowing that I'm enough. Because once you get to that place of knowingness, not just to conceptually understand it, because I think a lot of the time we logically understand that, look, on paper I'm a pretty good person. On paper, I've done all the good and great things, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the part of you which doesn't believe it, the unconscious part, where we've gone through the events that we've gone through, the pain, the hurt, the frustration, where people have told us things, did things to us, and then we unconsciously came to the conclusion somewhere along the line that we're not enough, that we're not deserving of shining our light. Sometimes we were told so often that we weren't enough, that we weren't worthy, that somewhere we began to buy into it. Those opinions became our own opinion. They became suggestions to our unconscious mind to become a reality of what we're experiencing. But that's not reality. That is the subjective experience of the reality, having been hypnotized by external circumstance. That external circumstance is not who you are. It is maybe what you've come to believe in, but that's not your identity. It's a false identity. You see, when you say, I am not worthy, I am not good enough, I am not capable, I'm not of value, who am I to do this? These I sentences are identity sentences. But I believe beyond the identity, there's something more, and I'll tell you why. Here's the really big thing I want you to get and understand. And that is, when you came into this world, you didn't have an identity. You didn't know who you were. You didn't know you had a name. It was only when people told you who you are, and then the experiences that you went through that caused you to realize what you thought you were, becoming that issue. Not for everyone, but if we've gone through some harsh times, some inconsistent times, and times of fear and doubt and all the pain and abuse that we've been through, we can easily come to the conclusion that that is our identity. But that wasn't always your identity. Way beyond that, you were just a blank canvas. You were whole. I imagine it sometimes as a blank piece of paper, and I do this with my clients. A blank piece of paper, somewhere along the line on that blank piece of paper, a circle develops. Within that circle is where you begin to live of the I'm not good enough. And the more you live within that circle edges and those boundaries start to build up as big walls. They become the prison that you live within. And after a while, you just live there and you think that you're not good enough. You don't think that you're worthy. But that circle wasn't built there from the existence of you. That big wall, that big prison was only there by the experiences that you went through. But before they became into existence, you were just that blank canvas, that blank piece of paper. And since you're that blank piece of paper, that must mean you're beyond the identity. You're beyond the I am not enough. Because yes, I want you to get to the I am worthy and I am enough and I am deserving, but even beyond that, I want you just to go, I am. I just am. I don't have to make a judgment on who I am. I can just live in the peace and the contentment, the fulfillment, the wholeness, the love that I am just who I am, and I can be unapologetic about that. I can start to live the life that I desire, that I dream, based on my truest heart, which comes from that place of wholeness. That is where I want you to get to. But you have to wake up and recognize the identity of I'm not enough is an illusion that we've been buying into. Is it real? Yes, because experientially it feels real. And if you feel it enough, then it must be real. But it's not the only truth. Beyond that feeling is going to be a contrasting feeling. Going deeper into the truth of your worth, you're going to start to realize that you're beyond that belief system. And it was just programmed and hypnotized into you. We've been so disconnected from ourselves based on our life experiences that we've forgotten who we really are. And I think who you are on the inside, and you can say, Joseph, you are crazy, woo, la, la. And I don't mind, because your opinion is none of my business right now. These are just my thoughts. This is my personal truth. I respect your model of world, and I don't always have to buy into it. And you don't have to buy into mine, but hopefully you can respect mine. I think we lose a lot of that in the world right now, respecting other people's opinions, not having to agree with them, but realize that's their opinion, right? It doesn't have to be our business. But my belief is that you are love. My belief is you are whole. My belief is that you are deserving and full of worth. Sometimes we need someone to tell us that. Sometimes we need to work with someone to be able to make that a reality. But I think our end goal and our dream here is to realize that, look, if we're going to live a life of meaning, we've got to recognize to get meaning from it. And that meaning comes from realizing who you are as an individual. on the individual and then the group level, because that's when you start to make the impactful changes. That's when you start to recognize the truth within yourself. That's when you start to see the truth within other people. You realize that their intentions are not their behaviors, and vice versa. They are separate. And once you see the world from intention, you can start to manipulate it in a good way, in a way that allows you to see the good in others, because you're seeing the good in yourself. How can you see the good in others if you're not seeing it within yourself? We may kind of see it, we may kind of experience it, we might kind of understand it, but that's not knowing it. That's not knowing it. You've got to know who you are in this world, and you know who you are when you start to wake up to realize that the issues that we have are already there to make us change. Those events that we've been through, we can cause it to be our instigator of the life that we want, the happiness that we want, the relationship we want. That's what we're after. So take a stand for it. Do what you love most of the time, and it's going to be a challenge. But just because it's a challenge, it doesn't mean we don't do it, because staying in fear, staying in the I am nots is going to be so debilitating and feel like a prison that we're going to live a life of regret. So get through the pain. Get through it. Do whatever it takes. Shout louder than the noise outside. Instigate it. Instigate that light within you. Have that ignition. Have permission to live a life that you desire. Become so resilient and so committed and so disciplined to your freedom that nothing's going to get in your way, because when you do that, nothing will get in your way. You'll have the adaptability of behavior, which always allows you to win in everything. And by win, I mean to learn and to grow, to get better because of it. But that's just my thoughts. This is my ideas. I've come to this journey as I go through this journey of my own life, of the podcast, the YouTube videos, and all that kind of stuff. That's just my own conclusion. Whether you believe it or not, what I would like you to take away, though, is that analogy of the candles. Because when you light up your life, when you start to have that passion, when you start to live a life of meaning, when you start to realize your worth, you will give permission for other people to do the same. You'll see more light in the world. You being dimmed out is not serving anyone. So let's reach up. Let's take a stand. Let's be that right and be that light. Because you never know who you're going to help. I don't know who I've helped in the world. I don't, based on all the different downloads. But when I do hear people say that they have helped, been helped, and I always say I take it, and also you did the work. But when I get that, nothing makes me feel better. And that's why I keep doing this stuff for free. And I will keep on doing it for free as much as I possibly can. Because I want to be able to be a part of the solution. And being part of a solution is being an act of service at times. But that's because you love and you enjoy it. And you get to that place by loving and enjoying who you are in this world. So do whatever it takes to take that stand, to wake up to your potentiality. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this little message of hitting 12 million podcast downloads. And I look forward to the next 12, because that'll be 24, my lucky number. So with that, my friends, if you ever need help and support, and if you are a powerful, ready, instigated, invested, professional business person, entrepreneur, and you want to do what you love and go all in on something, you can go to josephclough.info/talk. And as you go to josephclough.info/talk, you'll be able to book a call with us. Then you'll fill out an application form just to give us all the information we need to prepare for the call. And on that call, we'll get clear on a few things. We're clear of what you want to let go of, exactly what you want to achieve, get clear on what's unconsciously stopping you, and then come up with the right plan to make it a reality within 8 weeks. So that's josephclough.info/talk. And hopefully we can support you with that. Like I said, I've said this before, there is an investment. It's fully customized to your needs, to your heart. We have a team to support you, to break free of the imposter syndrome, to break free of the I am nots. Because once you do, life will never be the same again. I know my life will never be the same again. And I think when we look back and we want to go, well, did I live? Did I love? I think Brendan Bouchard said something similar. Did I live? Did I love? And something else. But I'm going to just say, did we live? Did we love? Well, we have purpose. Did we live a meaningful life? And I think we should do that. And of course, if you're not ready for that investment yet, feel free to download the app at freehypnosis.app. You can listen to hundreds of free hypnosis and coaching audios, 668 as of this episode. Use it. Go all in on it. It's free. Of course, you can pay to unlock the app as well for all the unlimited hypnosis sessions in the day and also transforming in the night. You can create custom hypnosis sessions. And of course, if you're enjoying the app, feel free to leave us a review, because that means, look, we're shining up more lights. Your review may just light that candle for someone else when they're just in the middle of the night going onto the app store, see your review, download the app, and maybe together we can help more people in this world. But once again, with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Just always know that I know that you have everything it takes to be the person you desire. Whatever you think, you are always more. So with that, many thanks and goodbye.